Hey, it's Ross from EGR, and today I'm joined by one of the finest journalists in the industry, Jake Evans. Jake, how's it going?
Fine, thanks, Ross. You're too kind.
Jake's also one of my colleagues. Really enjoy working with him. And EGR Power affiliate, Fintan Costello, who is the MD of bonusfinder.com.
Thank you very much, Ross. Great to be here.
Great. So, Fintan, what have you been up to over the last couple of months?
Last couple of months, what I've been doing, I tried to run a 100-mile race and failed miserably in Germany. I was in Marbella at the EGR Power event, which was a ridiculous amount of fun. Expensive. I bought lunch on the day I arrived and it cost me like £100. But anyway, different story. I'm not that power. So I definitely took advantage of the free food after that. What else have I been doing? Just running a business. So we're growing fast. We're currently hiring. So we've got 3 or 4 open positions right now. We've got somebody starting in 10 days. Relocating into Amsterdam. So we've been busy getting everything sorted for that. And we're entering kind of our second cycle of the year. So we kind of slow down a little bit during the summertime, give everyone a chance to catch up. And then we blast through from kind of mid-September till the end of the year. And we get our next batch of product updates and everything else we've got on our OKR list out the door.
Great. And you have a new podcast, which is it's been going for about a month now, The Gambling Files. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that's going?
Yeah, sure. So launched a podcast with John Bruford he's the editor at Casino International. Really funny guy. I actually was on he had another podcast series called The Bruford Files, which was fantastic. We had a chat. We kept in touch after that. We had a chat. It felt like a bit of fun. What I love about it is I've learned so much over the last couple of months with the guests. So really it's just my curiosity of like questions I need answered or stuff I'd like to learn more. But like German regulation, I sort of understand it, but I'm completely baffled.
Saves you paying consultancy fees.
It's saving me a fortune. It's great, right? So we bring in a German expert, or like what the fuck happened in the Netherlands a few weeks ago, right? Let's bring in a Dutch expert, or the single customer view last week was a really interesting. Just we had an amazing lawyer in the UK kind of walking us through that. So it's really kind of just interesting. But then like we've also had a guy who was he was a watch he used to work for Sotheby's as a watch expert. So we had an hour, and I've got his book. I bought his book. His book's beautiful. It's like a work of art. So we're talking about like watches and stuff like that as well. So it's really just kind of a lot of curiosity, getting really smart people on, and then I just ask them lots of stupid questions, and they teach me. So it's really good fun.
That's great. So normally you guys are doubling up on someone, but today we're doubling up on you. So I want to kick off a little bit with Jake. Jake, do you have a few good questions we could start with?
Yeah, absolutely. Another shout out for the Gambling Files podcast. It's really good. I've been enjoying every episode so far. And like you said, it's you and John with an expert most episodes, but that must mean that you're our expert today, Fintan. So no pressure, obviously. I think in this section, it would be good to just have a look back at some of the key talking points, some of the main stories from the last week or so within the gambling industry, just to get your thoughts, Fintan. I know you have an opinion on most things, so let's...
Everything.
Right, I thought it'd be a good place to begin with. Obviously, today, the Betting and Gaming Council has announced a bit of a revamp of the When the Fun Stops slogan that's been around in the UK now since about 2014, I think it was. They've gone for Take Time to Think, or quadruple T for short. I'm not sure if that'll catch on, but it'll certainly help with our editorial coverage. Well, I mean, what are your initial thoughts on the new campaign?
So look, I think educating customers on the tools that are available for them is a really good thing. I think as a society, normalizing using those tools is also a really good thing. Like there's no shame in putting a timeout. There's no shame in putting a deposit limit. There's just, even just closing your account or putting these things should be completely normal. There's everyone's put a lot of work in, there's obviously following the laws, but putting these tools in place and increasing adoption of these tools, I think is absolutely crucial. So anything that encourages that, I think is a great thing. I read the article today and on the EGR and looking at, there was some talk of like the old when it's time to stop is a bit of a fail. Like, so there was what I'd love to see is I'd actually love to see the data. So I think it was mentioned that there was a research piece done and there's a lot of consumer insights and stuff. So personally, as a marketing nerd, I'd love to see that, to understand that more. It's a difficult topic to explain. Does take time to think actually tell you anything? So like, I think all right, let's take your typical gambling ad versus take time to think. So your typical gambling ad bashes you over the head with some odds and a free bet offer. This feels a bit subtle to me. I think it could be a bit more explicit. If you look at the alcohol industry, it's drink responsibly. Like it's very clear. It's two words, and you know exactly what they're trying to tell you. Take time to think. Am I thinking about my bet? Am I thinking about the consequences? Am I thinking about, what am I thinking about? So personally speaking, and look, and it's easy to sit in the bleachers and I've been a marketing guy. Everybody's criticized my market. You know what I mean? So I totally sympathize whoever's come up with this. Everyone's a critic. I would have been more explicit.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think this has been some time coming. I think 2020 it was, they started looking for alternative slogans. I know there are a few others under consideration, one of which was "Don't bet your life on it," which, I think the industry obviously said was too strong. Number one, you don't want to link gambling to sort of suicide, obviously, and then just to have the words "Don't bet" in the tagline, I think is probably what they initially took umbrage with.
It's a real gambling industry response.
Yeah, we can't have "Don't bet." I guess, obviously they do have commercial interests as well, these operators, and I think one thing that this advert does do is showcase these new tools that have been developed, and at least shows that the industry is getting on the front foot in this regard, whereas a lot of the media attention perhaps doesn't show that.
Exactly. Look, and it has to be applauded. Even just refreshing the campaign will have an impact because it's a bit different. And I think the old kind of like it's just such wallpaper. Most people don't even pay attention to it now, right? So
and if you're talking about people who are experiencing harms, the fun's probably stopped for them a long time ago, right? I mean, it's not like it's not within their control to say, "Oh, okay, I've stopped having fun now. I'll just log off." It's not quite as simple as that, unfortunately.
I'm not having fun when I have that losing bet. So it's all relative. But look, I think anything that highlights it and normalizes it is a good thing. I think obviously execution is key, and what the full creatives look like, what the TV ads will look like, and these kind of things too. So there's a lot you can do there. And it's it's easy to criticize. It's good, but it could have been better.
Yeah, I think you're right. We'll wait until we've seen the ads. I'm sure they've done.
But I would love to see. Are they going to release the study data? I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to chase that up for sure. They must have done quite a lot of data collection in terms of putting this campaign together as well, in regards to what consumers would have wanted. But we shall see. Again, sticking with kind of regulation in the UK, a topic that never goes away really. The Football Index fallout is obviously still going on. Is Football Index a platform you ever looked at or dabbled with, or were you one of the ones who sort of was a little bit suspicious as to how the business model worked?
So I'm a really simple guy. If I don't understand it, I don't do it. And I looked at the football index, and it should be pretty simple. Okay, how are they making money? And then you kind of go, well, I'm buying a player and I get a dividend that's set by this, but then it expires after X time period.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme. Or asterisks allegedly, or however I can qualify that, not get sued, or maybe it's too late to get sued, who cares? But personally speaking, it never made sense to me. But there's lots of things that don't make sense to me that I'm completely wrong about, like streaming slots on Twitch. That never made sense to me. I assumed it was going to be a massive failure, and I'm completely wrong. So it's not as though I'm perfect on these things either, but the commercial model never made sense. I've worked in a hedge fund, so I've got an understanding of the markets. When the CEO is out there talking about like, this isn't gambling, this is trading, and it's clearly not. Or it kind of is, but it's more closer to derivative trading, or you kind of like, you've got to fight. It's more the greater fool type trading. You need a bigger idiot to come in after you to realize a profit. So it never really made sense. Obviously the Gambling Commission completely dropped the ball on regulating it. I think we can all agree on that. And a lot of people have lost a lot of money. For a lot of people, it was a very big part of their, like, it was a niche product, but it had a really core audience that believed. So a lot of people have lost out, which is an absolute shame.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, got sympathy with a lot of those football index users. The role of the commission is interesting, and I think you're right to highlight it. Obviously, the new chief executive, Andrew Rhodes, did come out this week and said it wasn't a Ponzi scheme, despite what your thoughts are. But obviously, he also said that when the commission first licensed this product, it was entirely different to perhaps how it turned out a few months down the line. And I guess this comes back to the subject of regulator funding and how detailed they are in their analysis of these licensed companies. I think they said like the simple function of being able to instant sell your bets, which is obviously how the consumers made money without having to wait for the 3-year dividend to expire. That wasn't part of the core business model that they licensed. That was something that was just simply added to the platform. And then the Gambling Commission didn't realize until, a lot of damage was done, obviously, sometime later. What do you think, is the future for investment in the gambling industry? Are they ever in the Gambling Commission? Are they ever going to be able to increase their oversight to a point where they're, monitoring these firms on a daily basis? So I think that's unlikely, which is obviously why we've led to these discussions about a gambling ombudsman. How do you see that sort of taking shape in the UK?
Well, it's all about consequences, right? So if you want to regulate an industry, the consequences need to be super clear. So is anybody doing an American style perp walk? Like who's got handcuffs on them right now, right?
I know that seems to have gone entirely under the radar. I don't like the founders. There's obviously a lot of very influential people in this industry that were quite heavily involved in the financial backing of Football Index to begin with. That are obviously trying to distance themselves from the product after what's happened. But you're right, we're not really seeing any ramifications here. Like you said, nobody's being sort of put on that parapet saying this can't be afforded to happen again.
Like if getting the board in handcuffs and photographed on the front page of the Guardian or the Financial Times is exactly how you get the rest of the industry in line.
Yeah, that's quite
because no board member wants that, and they will then start asking a lot of questions. So if that'd be a very cheap way of doing it, and it's easy for me to say because it's not me who's going to end up in handcuffs, so I can be quite smug about it. But look, should we have a well-funded regulator who can carry out their duties and protect consumers? Absolutely. Should there be funding available? Absolutely. What happens with the big fines that get levied on I think it goes to charity, but if you look at how much money's been dished out in fines to the industry as a whole in the last, say, 12 months, that's got to be a big chunk of the potential budget. And obviously you don't want to incentivize somebody that like you'll get more budget the more fines you hand out. So there's probably a balance. It's probably me being a bit stupid, but I think, of course, the fact that did the players, was any of the funds segregated? Like, so are people getting their initial deposits back from Football Index, or is it just all gone?
I mean, all of that's still ongoing. They're definitely not going to get the value of their portfolios back.
Oh, of course not, because that's hyped. But then it was in the EGR article as well, was about they had a market maker who had access to internal information as well.
Yeah.
Like, put handcuffs on somebody.
I know, red flags.
Like, that's called insider trading. So you're purporting to sell a marketplace. You've then got a actively supported insider trader.
Who was able to make, I think it's 3.6 million on their personal account or something like that.
So he's front running
against the rest of the market.
However, he's doing that, and so like it just doesn't add up. So I think there's a bit of we need more funding to do this, but like any of the statements like this isn't gambling, it's trading, is an immediate red flag, because it's clearly gambling.
Yeah, and I think that's why the Gambling Commission spent the best part of the year basically trying to kick responsibility over to the Financial Conduct Authority, who were, equally trying to keep it at arm's length. And then it was just time wasted and more, basically people coming to more harm as a result.
Exactly, and that's the real shame. Like, they both should have been able to come together. Look, consumers are at risk. Let's just go get this sorted.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the key thing. The bureaucracy for the sake of it's ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed. You obviously talk about outcomes as a result of this. The Gambling Commission did move to sort of provide a warning about Sorare, which is this new NFT. I think it's basically a sort of digital top trumps, if you like, of players that are cards and have certain statistics, and you can obviously build them up in your portfolios. And the Gambling Commission, fresh out of this scandal, which one way or the other led to the exit of their former chief executive, are obviously eager to avoid anything like this happening again for public relations reasons as much as anything else. But I mean, what are your thoughts about that? I think there is a danger here that whilst regulation is just about catching up with the gambling industry that was regulated in 2005, we already have a brand new industry coming in now that's they're ready to step in. That's the regulation of it is not even begun yet.
Look, the fortunes in the gambling industry were made when it was all grey markets, and running ahead of all the complaints from the gambling industry is because regulation is now in the process of catching up. And then you're right, like the whole crypto NFT space is very much still far, far ahead of regulation. Can you explain it to? So I looked at Sorare. I was looking at it the other day. And what I was impressed by, they've actually done licensing deals with the football teams. So I was like, oh, okay, so it's not complete Wild West.
And it's backed by a lot of former footballers as well.
So I build up my card collection. I have to form a team. Okay. So I've got a goalkeeper, a midfielder, defender, midfielder, striker.
Yeah.
I submit my team to the contest, and then it's like a fantasy football style scenario where, based on their performance that weekend,
again, it correlates to real life performance. Yeah. You
get points. What's the gambling bit? So I put money in and I win money, or where's my gamble?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not a user myself. But I think this is the thing. It isn't licensed by the Gambling Commission for this reason, right? I don't think there is an out-and-out gambling angle. I think they wanted to get ahead of it by saying, because obviously a lot of the consumers potentially that were using Football Index will see this as like it's saving grace, and they can just jump across and make similar astronomical fortunes. But I mean, if that wasn't warning enough, then what will be? But I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of it.
I couldn't figure it out either. So I did my kind of like, well, I don't understand this, so it's not for me. Which means now I'm an old man. Right? And I should have shown it to my son and let him figure it out for me. So if it's a gambling product, it needs to be regulated. I'm assuming there's appreciation on the player cards, but then what's the, like, how many cards are there? Can they print more cards? So then it's pretty much like your normal kind of crypto type question, right? Is there a limited supply? How do we know there's a limited supply? Is that algorithm, like, who's got control of the algorithm that decides that, and things like this? So look, but I think if we look at these cards and then we look at things like, so if the Gambling Commission is coming out talking about this, that's great. But what about loot boxes in the FIFA games?
Yeah.
All right. That's gambling. That's basically a slot machine.
Yeah.
And it's aimed at kids,
addictive.
and it's horrific.
Yeah.
And like so I'm in Amsterdam. The Dutch courts have banned it.
Yeah, they're the first European country, aren't they?
There should be more. Like, when you, as a parent, when I look at the mobile games, the mechanics in a mobile game are basically mini slot machines these days.
Yeah.
And 75 euro in-app purchases to get coins, which unlocks a thing. Like, it's just ridiculous what's happening there. So personally speaking, I would rather see them go after FIFA and some of these other types of games before something like Sorare, because I think the whole NFT space, and look, that's going to be a huge, like, the NFTs within games is going to be huge. That needs its own set of rules, but there's already a number of gambling products doing huge business in every PlayStation, Xbox in the country.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with regards to FIFA. I mean, this is a game that's geared towards, they're basically telling young people that if you buy these packs, you'll get better players and you'll become a better player at the game as a result. Obviously, that's not the case because it's purely down to your individual ability.
That's what I've been doing. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's where you're.
This is an intervention, Ross. This is a really elaborate intervention to your FIFA addiction.
But they have tried to sort of circumvent this slightly by saying one of the promotional packs, which is basically like a pack of players that you don't know which ones you're going to get, is a gamble. You can preview them now, right? So you can preview the pack. It will show you 5 players in the pack, and you can decide then whether you want to buy it. Okay. However, they're only doing that with one version of the pack. So all the promotional packs that they do at Christmas, which is like £30, £50 for 100 players, virtual players, by the way, on a screen. You don't get anything material for this. That's still a complete shot in the dark as to who you're going to get. So you get 11-year-olds spending £50 of their own money on some virtual packs, and the best player they pack might be playing in League 2 in England, and that money's just that's gone. Yeah, I think you're totally right. That's a lot more of an immediate danger, I would suggest, than platforms like Sorare.
Which is in France, and should the French regulator be doing something about it?
That's true. How are we doing for the time, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, we can squeeze something else in, and then
let's do it. What have we got?
Well, I know you and John talked about the single customer view on your podcast. Was there anything you learned? I think you had Melanie on, didn't you? From
we
North
did.
Ridgewell?
Yeah, she was amazing. So, and it is so the what was really interesting with the single customer view is it's incredibly difficult to implement.
Yeah.
So in theory and as a headline, it sounds great.
Yeah.
We're going to create a single customer view so gambling operators can understand the spend across multiple brands and protect the customer. All right. So as a general concept, brilliant, thumbs up, absolutely, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then when you start thinking about it, and you're like, well, how? Then it just gets incredibly complicated. Like, is it who's responsible for sending the messaging? What happens if, let's say, the 3 of us are operators and we've got a single customer view? Or let's say we'll pick on Ross. Let's say Ross is the customer. So me and Jake, we're operators. Ross is gambling beyond his limits on FIFA again. Is there an incentive for me to block Ross first, or should I wait for Jake to do it? Or should an independent third party just take the decision out of our hands and step in on both our behalves? Because if Jake blocks Ross, then I'm going to get more of his spend. So just simple kind of just game theory mechanics like that kick in.
Yeah.
What happens if your intervention is stricter than my intervention? So there's loads of like just nitty gritty details. Things like one of the things to come up with, like, it's technically medical data if you've got a problem. So it's disordered gambling is a medical condition.
Yeah.
Under GDPR rules, like, how is that okay to share?
Yeah, well, exactly.
And I think the information commissioner is like, sort of given a green light, but it's not like an absolute clear cut. This is how it would be done.
And that was based on a very conceptualized version of what
exactly right.
What so might look like.
So I applaud it. I think the industry would have a right to complain about it because there also isn't equivalency. So I know it's something like if we look at, say, the current complaining about the online business, because a lot of, say, the bet limits and stuff aren't equivalent with, say, the FOBTs.
Yeah.
Well, something like this the industry could kind of say, well, actually, this isn't equivalent with, I can walk into a land-based casino and there isn't a single customer view of me there. I can walk into a newsagents and buy as many scratch cards and lotto tickets as I want. And people are addicted to the National Lottery and scratch cards.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the same thing. So is it good to start somewhere? Absolutely. Should it be rolled out across all products? Absolutely, if possible. Is it incredibly difficult to do? And is it going to take a decade? Probably. And will it actually work in and then, like we talked about, source of funds, but like, is it can you afford this? So like, what is, if I'm a Russian oligarch and I've just lost, 500K on a bet, but it's like the equivalent of 50p to a regular person, is that problem gambling?
Yeah.
And things like that. So there's obviously nuance to these conversations too. So it sounds like a great headline. It's easy to get excited about it if you're a campaigner, and I think that's okay. The practicalities are really difficult, but I think there's a great opportunity for the industry to kind of go, you know what? We're going to take the bull by the horns. We think this is great. We think we can make it better. We think we can implement it, and just get ahead of something for once, I think would be really good.
Yeah.
So I'd actively encourage anybody who can to kind of endorse this and try and get, like the BGC is the obvious one, to try and get behind this and get ahead of the curve on this.
Well, gentlemen, thank you ever so much. I've just been kicked out of my room. It's very busy here in London. We've got a lot going on this afternoon. So thank you ever so much for joining me, Fintan. And Jake, some awesome questions. I can't wait to get this up on the platform. So really appreciate it, gentlemen.